TIFU expecting a sex worker to keep what happened between us private. Original post. The inevitable happened. The sex worker my dad hired to terminate my virginity in the dead of night did not keep her mouth shut. I know. I should have seen it coming. When I shared my original post, I was convinced my dad didn't know I was gay. I never said anything to anyone about my sexuality other than to the sex worker who teamed up with my father to unexpectedly put me in a vulnerable position. My dad and I have been avoiding each other since that night. Not gonna lie, I was okay with that. We needed space. The words divorced dad, virgin son and sex worker should never be said in the same sentence. This morning my dad showed up at my apartment. Unusual but not surprising. He was courteous enough to call beforehand. Asked if I was available. Said he wanted to talk. I assumed he was still feeling bad about ambushing me with a sex worker and wanted to make sure that our relationship was intact. Little did I know that my dad's primary objective was to establish if his 20-year-old son was sexually attracted to other people's 20-year-old sons. As soon as my dad made himself at home in my living room, he asked if we were alone. I said my roommate was at the gym. My dad's response was to drop the following line: "Sharing an apartment with a guy who works out must be motivating." Slow clap. Subtle as fuck, my father. He didn't even need to wink at the camera. My dad asked if my roommate had a GF. I implied that he had girls that come and go. My dad said my roommate must be handsome to get so much attention. I shrugged and said, or he's paying for it. It was a joke. An uncomfortable joke based on my dad's disturbed expression. My dad said he could explain the sex workers and answer all my questions if was prepared to listen. I said it was none of my business and he didn't owe me an explanation, but I did suggest that he at least considered therapy. My dad said he was proud of the person I've become and promised to think about my suggestion. As wholesome as that moment was, the gay elephant was still in the room, so I awkwardly asked my dad if he recently communicated with the sex worker he hired to sleep with me. My dad said no because he wanted to respect my privacy and avoid crossing the line again. Based on all the random references to my roommate's attractiveness, I was convinced my dad heard I was gay from one of the other sex workers, who heard it from the sex worker with the motor mouth. We danced around the topic of my sexuality for a little longer because it was still a big moment despite all the weird shit that happened the last time my dad and I were under the same roof. I eventually came out and said it. "Dad, I'm gay." My dad stood up and showed me he was wearing socks with rainbow stripes to celebrate the news. I didn't even notice his socks until he liked the leg opening of his pants. He said it was a gift from the sex workers. He had another pair of rainbow socks in his pocket, which he gave to me when we were done hugging. I suppose the outcome could have been worse. I doubt there will be another update, so thank you for riding this wave with me. TL. Dr. An update post, not really a fuck up. I informed a sex worker with a motormouth that I was gay and expected her to keep that information private. She spread the news amongst her fellow sex workers who eventually shared it with one of their loyal clients, which happened to be my dad.